Hi everybody, welcome back. Andy from Backyard Trucker. Today we're going to tour Fayette State Historical Park. It's the site of an old town built in the 1860s, and it was abandoned early in the early 1900s when mining operations ceased. So coming along, a lot of the buildings are still intact. Others are just foundations. So come on along and I'll show you what this is about. Here's the old Fayette town. This town got abandoned after I believe all the mining had been exhausted out of the area. This is a map of the town of Fayette. Actually had different income levels where you could live. Middle income neighborhoods, those were usually tradesmen and supervisors. They got to live in fancier homes. And then lower income housing was down here. Lived in really tiny houses. Right here we've got one of the businesses. This was the furnace complex. These were ovens, the boiler rooms, and this is where they would cast the steel. They'd melt everything down, melt all the raw iron, and make castings in each side. That's this big building here. This was actually a service garage for the locomotives. It actually had an impression down in the ground so the workers could get underneath it and change parts and service the locomotive. This was the end of the rail for hauling the ore in and out. The rail line went out that way through the trees. Daily wages for a blacksmith were $1.65 to $2.25, or they made $525 a year. The man who owned this, what is now gone, made $2,100 a year. This was the machine shop. This is made out of brick, limestone. Here's where they had shutters on the walls, so they could shut the windows or protect the glass. Fairbanks scale. This is where a scale used to sit, out in the open, no building around it. This is where all the merchants would bring in their loads of charcoal for the furnace and get paid for the amount of what they hauled in. There's some amounts of different weights and how much they got. this. That's all that this little area was. Let's see what this building is. The sign's on the other side, I think. No sign. This was the site of, you could see the corner foundations. This was the other corner of the foundation of this building right here. This is the carpenter's shop. A gentleman by the name of Frank Stasky was the local carpenter, and he was charged $5 rent. Evidently somebody else owned the building, but he got to live in the building, but he was also the town carpenter. He'd build doors and windows and coffins and stuff, and his building was here. This is the machine shop. It usually had a machine in it to power for fixing stuff, and then the blacksmith shop was down there, but only the machine shop stands today. Look at this mammoth building. This is a really huge place. I'm guessing this might be a hotel, but I could be wrong. Wherever you see an impression low area, that usually meant that there was a house right here, usually by the low income house, low income workers. There's one way over there. We'll go by that one on our way back out. But they said that the impressions in the ground was where a house used to stand. This is a really huge 3-story building. Don't know what's all in it. It's locked. I don't know if they're gonna come unlock these today or not. Fayette's Busy Hotel. Yep, this was the hotel. There's a small fireplace. There's some pottery. Look at that. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's go see what these other rooms show. Old single pane windows, old style latches. I remember my grandma's house having them. This big building was the general store. Company store. Stocked merchandise from Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit. And they could put it on a credit whatever they bought, they could put it on credit from the Jackson Iron Company. So everybody, my guess is that that building up there, the factory, was owned by Jackson Iron, and everybody that worked here and lived here, it would just get deducted from their pay, is my guess. Which I guess you wouldn't have to worry about it. No matter how fairly it is managed, one resident says the company is generally considered a pluck-me term commonly used in emphasize exploitive mining company stores. Well, we have other words these days that are explicit also. So even back in 1886, even they had some choice words for owners of businesses. But this was the entrance. Or no, this was the warehouse area. This was the entrance to the warehouse for the store. It had a basement. You can see where the sloped roof was. That is Lake Michigan. So ships could come in here and also offload their goods, probably from Chicago. And Chicago probably ran stuff up here with a boat. Detroit probably came by rail. But this was the warehouse area. Yeah, warehouse area, and then this company, the storefront. This was the store area. You can see where the second floor would have been, and then it would have had a third floor also, possibly for people to live in. Pockets, there were beams stretched from one side of the building to the other to make the second floor and the third floor. But that is all since caved in or burned. This building here actually probably has a couple different things in it. Notice that this has D. DuPont Barber, so evidently this was a barber shop. An old stove. Can't really see much in there. There's the barber's chair and his table for all of his stuff, his cutting supplies, and his sink. This could have been his residence also, but it's a pretty big building. Some cool old stuff that they found here. It's an interesting rock. I'm guessing that used to be a fireplace right there. Music hall. I guess they had music upstairs. Oh, I just seen a big old fish jump out of the water. I wonder if he'll jump out again. See what's in this room. Oh, this is this room from a little bit ago. We'll walk down the hill here. This has got an interesting angled front to the looks like a bunch of church pews. This must be where they store all the stuff for fixing this place up. But this has got an interesting front. It goes this way and then it runs on an angle. Big, huge building. The size of that hotel. That is huge. This is one of the middle class homes. There's another one there. They're primarily all the same kind of house. They were probably owned by the Jackson Iron Company, and their tradesmen and their machinists all lived in these homes. They're not very big homes. Primarily all the same design. There's the stove, so the kitchen would have been back here, I would assume. I'm guessing this was just a rear patio. This is the foundation of one that is left. And this would have been the cellar. This one had a cellar in it for storing your cold goods, you know, cold items. This is how you would have got down in it. This is what Fayette looked like where I'm standing right now. Only a couple of these houses. That one is still standing, and then that one is still standing. There was a building right here and there, and then you see the ruins of the other one in between the two. But this was coming. This is from where I'm standing right now, looking this way. And I was right. These were company-owned homes for skilled tradesmen and office workers, built in New England saltbox styles. Others were side-by-side duplexes. 9 houses and 13 foundations survive in the town site. There's a foundation of a house that was in the middle of the woods here. And here's the boarding house. This housed single employees. This was the very front of the house right here. And then it had its wings there, and there would have been one over there. Rooms were available at the hotel and other households. Many residents, like Chris Stengel and his wife, Frederique, took in boarders to supplement their income, typically immigrant residents of similar nationalities. So that is a picture of the women of Fayette. It shows their residents, their names. I can't make out what that all says, but those are the names of the people. And if they had a spouse, I'm guessing. Can't really see that. Okay, yep. Some of them had a wife. Some were bachelors. So says that was your job, what you did for a living. Seaman. I'm guessing that's a seaman. Place of birth, Cassopolis. That, I think, is Covington. Interesting. So you had to give a lot of different information if you wanted to live here. But it looks like they were just all women living here for the most part. Another foundation of a house. Oh, here's the doctor's office. Let's go down here first. We'll park my bike a minute and we'll walk around here. And of course, look at what I found. There is the outhouse. There's the outhouse for this residence, or possibly this area right here. This is just an old house. Here's another house. This would have been middle class residents that worked in that factory. That's the casting areas, one on each side, and that's the boilers in the middle that would heat up the iron and melt it down. That's the general store and the warehouse that I showed you a little bit ago. And yeah, the state has put up some nice boat docks here so people can come here with a boat. This was not 1800s, early 1900s deal. This house is a lot bigger. This evidently was probably somebody of wealth, maybe the owner of the factory. This is considerably not nicer. There's the stairs to go upstairs. Nope, it's locked. You can't get in there either. I'm surprised they got this all locked. There's the entrance for the cellar. I'm guessing that's their outhouse right there. Quite possibly. Let's see here. Can't really see in the windows. It's reflecting too much. I should really clean the windows of this place. Can't see in that window at all. This would have been the back porch area, I would assume. Back entrance. Wood shingle roof. Cedar roof. Wow. Can you imagine that view, waking up, looking out there, seeing that? Wow. And this little building, that was right. That's the outhouse. It's a two-holer. So when the mama had to take her kids, they both could use the facilities at the same time. That house being of grand size, like I said, probably owned by somebody wealthy, actually had stone driveway. You can see the drive went in here and went through there. I would imagine at some point in the early 1900s, they probably owned a car. Probably when cars first got introduced. That's my guess. Because you wouldn't have a rock stone driveway like that with horses. That'd be hard on horses. So the road evidently come up through here and then went back into town that way. And like I mentioned a little bit ago, this was the doctor's office. I'm guessing the doctor lived upstairs because older people would probably have a hard time getting upstairs. So my guess is the doctor's office was down in the basement or down low here. C.J. Bellows, medical doctor. This would have been the waiting room. That would be the stairs to go up into his own residence. And this probably was his office area. There's probably an exam room back there. Here's another house. This is a duplex. Split residence. Yep, split residence, but they shared. You could actually knock on your neighbor's door right there in the middle. And right there's the shores of Lake Michigan. There's a couple more old houses. They all had the same design. It was just easy to stick with one design if you were to build it. Here's the foundations of similar ones. An old wagon. Wow. This would have been a foundation of a bigger house. All these rocks were probably gathered off of the shores of Lake Michigan. This was the livery, the horse stable. You could rent horses and wagons. There was more horses and wagons in the town of Fayette than any other town in the peninsula in the UP here. Evidently next door was a two-story hotel that used to be there. That's the other hotel. Notice it's split in the back. It's kind of interesting. This was the site of the stock barn. This is where all the town's horses were kept because it took a lot of horses to move all the materials around town. And it was a 40-foot by 130-foot long barn. So it was 130 foot deep. And it was constructed in 1867. I'm guessing it's right there. A lot of horses. Jackson Iron Company is located in New Guinea, or Nogany, Michigan. So this was built by Duncan McDonald. So I think Fayette started being built in 1867. This is what the low-income housing or for unskilled workers lived. This was their neighborhood. There's only one little house left. It's a little log cabin. And they were literally built right on the street. There was 30 of them along this area that were built by Jackson Iron Company. They could house 5 or more people. It was not good living conditions, they said. Even though they lived right on the shores of Lake Michigan, it was really noisy living next to the factory. This would have been the rail line to get to Fayette, which is just up here. So let's take a ride up here and walk around and see what we can find. This is the site of the old baseball diamond and racetrack that the town made so that they could have some enjoyment and time away from work. Bicycles also became a craze here in 1878. And look at that one, three-wheeled bicycle. Look at that. That's cool. Probably steered with one hand. The other one you had to hold on to. And horse track. A minute 30 seconds to turn a lap on a half-mile track. Horse by the silver tail. That's interesting. There's fishing and sailing and hunting here. It all died off in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is on top of the hill. The city, the town of Fayette is just over them trees right there. So they had to climb up the hill here to get to the ball field, to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Here is the layout of what the town was. This building, which is right here, was not part of the building. This is just the Welcome Center building. We're right here. The ball field and racetrack is what's behind me. This is one of the original roads to go down around to get to Garden and to go south to the end of the peninsula. This road here, this was the rail line that came in to haul in the iron pellets and to haul them out. And this is where all the businesses were. These are the buildings that are only left that they have pictured here. These are the only ones that are still standing. They show the foundations of some houses that are left, but a lot of the tradesmen, the higher paid employees got to live in those houses. Down here, there's only one low income, unskilled worker house still here, but there was many of them in this area at one time. The state rebuilt that so you could see what it looks like. There was 2 stagecoaches that operated out of here. They would compete to see who could get where first and get back. But this had a population of about 500 people, and the town was built in 1867 by the Jackson Iron Company. They built all the homes. The employees lived in the homes, and their rent was taken out of their pay. And it was closed down in 1891 when the iron company ran out of wood They literally stripped the land of all the wood, so there was no wood to burn for charcoal, and they wound up having to close the business and close the town. Down this way is the cemetery, and the church is, the old church is right here, Peter's Church. The railway goes right past it, and if you were to take this and keep going for about a half mile, you come to the old cemetery where a lot of the residents that lived in this town to help build it are buried to this day on the bluff overlooking Lake Michigan. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little journey and adventure here. This is a really cool old town, and it's pretty well preserved. It is definitely someplace I would actually come back to and visit again. So thanks everybody for coming along, and appreciate you watching my video. Till next time, everybody. Here is the ruins of an old church that was built in the mid-1870s, St. Peter's Catholic Church. It burned down in 1879 and was rebuilt, and then burned again in 1972 and never rebuilt. And there's a list of church members that paid dues in 1882. So they were evidently members of the church. This is what it looked like after they rebuilt it. This is what it is, or was, when it first got built. This was a side entrance, and that was the front. Lake Michigan is out that way. This would have been inside the church. There's one wall. There's the other wall. And that would have went out the front. Here's all that's left of the front steps of this church. The foundation is made out of a lot of rock. The same kind of rock. It squares off when you know, with a chisel you could probably square it off really nice, but this is all natural rock. Same stuff that's down by the lake. Probably makes great for foundations. Alright, I just went for a little ride and I found more parts of Fayette. Up here on the top of the hill, across from the big house, there's this clearing here. This is where Joseph Mercer had a huge hay barn for hay and feed for all the draft horses in town, which is down over that way. He built the barn. He built the barn up away from the industry to keep it away from the possibility of fire. So right there is the factory and the town on the other side of it. So this was up on the hill, and he supplied all the feed and grains and whatnot to the town folk. This is the view of the furnace and what's left of the town, and some houses. The Jackson Iron Company ran out of wood. They cut all the forest down and ran out of wood to burn, to make into charcoal to run the furnace. So they closed the doors in 1891. And the owner of Jackson Iron Company moved his operation to Naughney Mine and abandoned all these buildings. And then Cleveland Irons purchased it, but didn't do anything with it. And then in the 1940s, it was the hotel was opened, or no, the hotel stayed open until the 1940s, when it was used by fishermen. This is what the town looked like. Evidently there was some buildings down in front of that big house. Here's this big house up on the hill. These buildings aren't here. That one's here, that's here. This is all still here. Steamship taking passengers. So that's all that's left of it. Well, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming along. As you can see, that's some of the buildings right there, which I think was pretty cool. They're pretty well preserved. Some of them have been fixed a little bit. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This is up in Garden, Michigan, Fayette State Historical Park. Come on up, take a look-see. Thanks, everybody.